Welcome back, everyone. Good to see you all. As I am preparing to load the van to hit the road for a month, heading up through New York State and into Maine, I've got gear that needs to be repaired. I tend to try and deal with this stuff when it comes up, but this year has just been too crazy. So I've got some piles of stuff. I thought it was a good opportunity to sort of talk about process for how to actually repair this stuff. We got a lot to talk about. Let's go. Okay, let's get right at this. The first thing I'll say is that I keep a bin labeled fix, and it's got all the stuff that I need for fixing gear. It keeps my repair kit, which goes with me when I'm paddling. Sometimes I'll throw it into the van, but in the van I generally have tools and such, so it's not as necessary. I'll talk about some of the products that are in there as I use them, and then a couple that I don't plan on using today I just sort of want to talk about. I'll also tend to, just out of habit, throw on top of that bin things that I know that need to be repaired. Right now I've got my VHF radio, which is broken in such a way that I cannot fix it. I think I'm probably just going to replace it because it is very old. It is 2009, 2010. So that is not going to get repaired today, but that's why it was on top of the bin. The other thing I have to deal with today are some of my dry bags that have holes in them. I have two actually that we're going to work on, maybe three if I can find the other one. These bags were gifted to me by Zen Bivy. I am in love with them. They said in the very beginning when I got them, they said these are not kayaking dry bags. These are backpacking dry bags. So you are going to put a hole in them. They're thinner than we would make if we were making one for kayaking, but I love the purge valve on them. And I did manage to pick up holes in two of them. Keeping in mind, they get a lot of use. This bag in particular is the bag that goes with me every time I paddle. And I realize that what is causing the holes, I have holes in two of them, is I'm putting something inside them with a sharp corner and then it's getting squeezed. So I need to be a little more careful. I'm going to say 50% my fault. 50% it's not a bag designed for kayaking. I checked with them on how to fix it, and they went with my favorite method, which is tenacious tape. Okay, tenacious tape is this stuff. I forget how much it is. I'll put a price up here. It's like a 3-foot roll, and you cut it like tape and you put it over the hole. However, I got a trick that I have developed over years of putting holes in stuff. And I'm not gonna, this one is brand new and I don't need this one because I got one that's open already. Let me go grab that. This is my repair kit when I'm doing a multi-day trip. And in here, I did a video about this. I'll put a link to that up here. Here is tenacious tape. And I'm just going to cut a couple little pieces off of this using the scissors in my multi-tool. So relatively small hole. In general, it's good to do a square would suit this perfectly. The corners of squares should be rounded off because they will peel easier from a corner than they will from a rounded edge. And that's true when you're doing like blister care and putting tape or anything like that on a human, or even moleskin. Cut the edges, the square edges off so that it's somewhat rounded and it is more likely to stay on the thing you're putting it on. That point just sort of gets grabbed. So that is looking pretty good. And there are actually two ways that you can do this. There is my finger poking through. I could just put a piece of tenacious tape over this and be done with it, but I want this to be incredibly sturdy and durable. So what I'm going to do is actually put a piece of tape on both sides of the hole, and even better, I'm going to fold the little flap back on the inside so that the two pieces of tape are touching each other right in the middle. And when tenacious tape touches tenacious tape, it will never let go. So let's work on that right now. There it is, peeled off. Gonna smooth that out as much as I can. Okay, let's cut one more little piece. That will never come off. Okay, super happy with that. We'll keep track of that as to how it ages, but I am confident based on experience that that's not coming off of there. I've got one more, a smaller one, little tiny dot on here. That I just did in acetique, so I'm going to do this one more time. This time I'm going to turn this inside out. Should be much easier, I thought. Thing of beauty. Okay, those are both done. I will spare you the third bag. I think you get the idea. However, I will say you can use this exact same process on jackets. Now, you can buy like a Gore-Tex patch. I find that they don't stick on because there it's more about the Gore-Tex than it is about the patch. And a little bit of tenacious tape on a hole is not going to ruin the breathability of the jacket. It will be less breathable in the size of the hole, which is not a big deal. I've also done it with puffy jackets, and with those, this is where I discovered the concept of putting a patch on the inside and the outside. And with a puffy jacket, it's got to go inside the puffy. You don't want to collapse the baffle. So sometimes you actually have to make the hole a little bit bigger so you can get the patch inside the hole stuck to the inside of the material. That takes a little bit more time. I don't have one of those to do right now, but it works brilliantly on jackets. I actually had a dog bite my arm once, put a hole in the sleeve. I repaired it like that, and the repair lasted longer than the jacket. I finally had to get rid of the jacket. Okay, so that's patching a hole. I want to talk really quickly about sort of the other stuff that I have in my repair kit. Even though I've got that video, I've got a Sawyer pump for back flushing. This could also be an irrigation syringe for your first aid kit. This is DevCon plastic weld, which is the stuff that I use to repair my Delta kayak when it cracks. This boat that I have currently, I've never had to repair. I made a small repair in my last 17. I had a Delta 15 that I did a ton of work on. This works really well. And so this lives in here, along with this stuff, which is really for drywall work. But when I patch a crack in a Delta, on the inside I put this stuff. This is essentially plastic, so it welds into the underlying crack so that it all becomes one piece, and that I feel like supports it. I invented this concept. I've never tested it, but the boat that we did this on went to Alaska and did a month in Alaska. I also have an MSR repair kit for my Whisper Light. There's a video coming, Whisper Light versus Reactor and other canister stoves, based on a very interesting comment that I got. Also in here I have a sleeping pad repair kit. This is probably expired. I think that this should have a tube of glue in it as well, which I probably used and didn't replace, so that should probably be replaced. I'm not quite sure where I ended up with this. This is a dromedary medium cap. I have a bunch of zip ties, which can fix just about everything. As I've already shown, I've got a multi-tool that lives in this kit. And then finally, I've got tent splints. So let's talk a little bit about tent splints. Okay, this is the cross pole in my tent. And so the nightmare is that you break a pole as you're setting it up in the middle of nowhere, and you need to save your trip. And the way that we're going to save that is with one of these. I have a couple different sizes from various tenths. I think you can see that size difference there. You want one big enough to slide over, but it's also got to be big enough, like the brake, you might have to bend some to get it back in there. And the concept is, if this was the brake, you slide the sleeve, the splint, over the brake, and it supports the brake itself. And really what you're supposed to do is then slide it over it, and then the tension in the pole should hold it in place. I frequently see people who will duct tape it in place. You really don't have to do that, with the exception being, like, if you want to duct tape it in place for a multi-day, if you can still manage to fold your poles up and travel, you don't have to replace it. But the tension in the bend alone should hold it in place. So these are really good things. A lot of people don't know what they are and they throw them away, but that's a really good thing. I've done another video, I'll put a link to that up here, and it's about replacing the bungee. That is good bungee. If that bungee loses its spring, it needs to be replaced. And I did a whole video about how to replace that a long time ago. Super great video. I really think you'll enjoy it. That is a fix that seems intimidating, that is really pretty easy and only needs a few tools and the replacement shock cord. So that's the sort of thing that it'll cost you 25 bucks and an hour of your time. It's way better than sending it out or have someone else do it. It's also super rewarding when you get that done. Okay, that's tenths. Let's talk about rain jackets that need a little help. Okay, this is my REI Gore-Tex shell. I noticed on my last trip that it's DWR coating, which is a chemical coating that is applied to the jacket in the factory, designed to make water bead up and roll off the jacket. I realized that DWR coating was pretty much done. It was no longer beading up. That doesn't make the jacket not waterproof, but it assists the jacket in terms of not wetting out. So the Gore-Tex membrane can do what it needs. And the way that you know that it definitely needs to be replaced is when you look at it in a rainstorm, you don't see drops of water, you see soaked in water. Let's see what that looks like. That is soaking in, is not beating up. That's beating up a little bit over there. No, that's soaking in still. Let's talk about how to fix it. I am going to use two products to fix this problem. The first is Tech Wash, made by Nikwax. This does two things. It prepares the surface of the jacket to receive the new coating of DWR. If you have washed the jacket with regular laundry soap, the DWR will not reapply. It'll just slide right off. Also, if it's dirty, it won't reapply real well. So this will clean it. It'll strip off any chemicals that will impede the DWR from applying, or any dirt. And we'll get back to dirt in just 1 second. So I'm going to wash it in my regular washer, following the instructions between this and this, but it's probably warm water. And then when the cycle is done, I'm not even going to take the jacket out of the washing machine, and I'm going to wash it with this, which is TX Direct Wash-In. This is actually reapplying the DWR coating. So green cap is clean. Purple cap is proof, as in waterproof. So I'm going to wash it. I'm going to wash it again. And then, assuming that I haven't washed this one before, which is why it needs to be done, I need to check and make sure that this is okay being tumbled dry on low heat. As long as it is, I'll tumble dry on low heat in my dryer. Some jackets don't like that machine heat, in which case you can just hang it dry, but the heat actually does help this adhere and last longer. The more you take a waterproof jacket and stuff it into a dry bag, the faster you sort of break off the DWR coating or wear it off. Think of it as like a shell that you are now breaking when you crumple it into a bag or something like that. And by applying it with some heat, it tends to stay on longer in my experience. So that's what we're going to do for this jacket and these rain pants that I've got. And in general, you can do 2 or 3 garments in a load. The other problem I've got is my dry suit. Let's go over there and talk about it. So my dry suit, as you can see, is pretty dirty. So this is absolutely going to get the tech wash treatment in terms of cleaning it. But I noticed when I was in Assateague about a month ago in driving rain that it was not beating at all. So it definitely needs GWR reapplied. The problem is this dry suit is very old, 2009, 2010. It's been repaired a bunch of times. You can actually see in here patches from where it's been repaired. This is the seam taping, and then it's got a bunch of little patches in places where it's leaked. I don't fully trust this to put it into a washing machine. I think that would be a little bit too rough, but I've got a deep sort of work sink for like a mop or whatever, and I'm going to put this, I'm just going to soak it in that and agitate it a little bit by hand to get it clean, and then drain it and rinse it a couple times, and then do the same thing, soak it in a sink with the TX Direct. So first the green, then the purple, one to get it clean, one to get it waterproofed. I'm gonna re-zipper all of this stuff so that it goes in and is in as strong a position it can be in where I'm minimizing the potential for damage. But there is one other thing that this dry suit needs. It needs a treatment of 303. You should do this at least a couple times a year, more like quarterly. I am usually not that good, but I remember when I'm doing stuff like this. 303 is used on the gaskets. It keeps them from cracking. It gives them like UV protection and keeps them supple. It keeps them from cracking. It makes them slide over your skin easier. I can't find definitively on any site whether or not you're supposed to do both the inside and the outside of the gasket. I have primarily out of laziness done the outsides of gaskets. I've read some people get allergic reactions to this when it goes against their skin. That's never happened to me, but yeah. I've also had people say, well, the inside of the gaskets don't get exposed to the sun anyway. Not a bad point. Do what you think is best, but this stuff is awesome. I also use this on gasket seals on my kayak. I also use this on sections of my spray skirt that need cleaning. This is a quality product, and I'm going to show you right now how I put it on the gaskets. Okay, I've got a clean rag. No, I do not. I got to get a clean rag. Hang on. Okay, I got a clean rag, and here's what I'm going to do. I am going to slide my hand into this gasket the wrong way. And I'm going to get it nice and smooth on my skin. This is the protective cover that goes over that, but I want the gasket. Okay, so there is the gasket, nice and smooth. Still feels great. I'm just going to hit it with some 303. Make a mess on the floor. And then wipe it off. And now let's do the other side. So much nicer. Slipperier, prettier, outstanding. And I'm going to do that for all of them, including the neck. All of them. There's really only one more. Let's just do it. Outstanding. Okay, I'm going to let those do their thing in the sink and in the washing machine for a while. I'll probably go back and agitate the dry suit a few times. Then I'm going to rinse it really well. Then I'm going to let it soak in more warm water with the TX Direct, with this stuff. And then I'm going to let that hang dry. I am not putting that in the dryer. I just do not trust those seams as old as that garment is. The jacket and pants I washed are relatively new. I'm not that worried about them. They're going to get washed once, then they're going to get washed again with the TX Direct, and then I am going to tumble dry them on low to medium heat. Always check the tag on your garment that you're washing in terms of what it can withstand and how it wants to be washed and things like that, and use sort of this sort of use this sort of adaptive process of, well, it won't let me do that in the washing machine. I can do it in a sink. I can do it in a bathtub, whatever. Bathtub brings up another common fix, which is leaky sleeping pad. Take your sleeping pad and fill a bathtub halfway full with warm water. You don't even need soap. Submerge a foot of it at a time looking for bubbles. You will see a lot of bubbles. I should point out, blow up your pad first. You will see a lot of bubbles. It will be blatantly obvious where the hole is until you take it out of the water. So what I tell people is to have like a Sharpie marker with the cap off on the side of the bathtub. So as soon as you pull it out, you can put a dot where the dot is. And then for that repair, I would not use tenacious tape. I would use a specific for sleeping pads patch and glue system. That is the way to go. There's a lot more going on there. Water, I think, is easier to stop than air, which is what we need to deal with. So look for a specific sleeping pad repair kit. This one came with colors to sort of match. Don't worry about matching. No one cares. And in fact, I will tell you a quick story. So many years ago, I was working a Knowles course, and there was a student on the course who had a gorgeous, brand new Arc'teryx rain jacket. I love picking on Arc'teryx rain jackets. I didn't in this particular case. The kid sitting around a campfire, a hot ember hit the jacket, put a hole in it. He was super upset. The course leader who was working on the course took him aside, was like, hey, I'm going to show you how to patch that. We've got the stuff right here. We'll patch it. He was super bummed because it had a scar on it. And the course leader, the guy in charge of the course, was like, no. Look at the instructors. All of our jackets have patches on them. Even our Arc'teryx jackets have patches on them. And it's like, it's proof that you do this stuff. It's authenticity. And as soon as he heard that, he felt way better about it. So don't worry about having patches that don't match. It's not a big deal. No one is paying attention. And if they are, it's proof that you actually do stuff in the outdoors. Okay, a few last things. The first is I use TX Direct products. They've always worked well for me, but there are lots of products you could use. If you use something else, that's fine too. I've never had a problem with them. They work really well. There are specific products for waterproofing specific things. So make sure you're using the right item. This is designed specifically for outerwear and stuff like that. If you are waterproofing or DWRing a different type of jacket, there's a soft shell proof, there's a down proof, that can be used with sleeping bags as well. So match the product that you're using to the product that you're using. Match the product that you're using to reapply DWR to the product that you're applying it to. They are not all the same. One more thing that I want to show you, because this really cracked me up. Two other products that I use. This glue I got from NRS with Northwest River Supply, and this is what I use to hold the foam inside my boats. Unfortunately, in this case, it got knocked over and leaked a little bit. And another product I want to talk to, Aquaseal, is now glued to this case. That's how well this glue works. So this is Aquaseal. Flexible, durable adhesive is what it says on it. It's not as flexible as you would think. It's used primarily for fixing, or originally for fixing wetsuits, and it dries pretty hard. I've used it to repair spray skirts, and for that it works really well. And it's a good thing to throw in a kit because it'll fix a lot of things. I think I've covered all of the big ones. If there is a piece of gear I missed, hit it in the comments and I'll do my best to answer how to repair it. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, do me a favor, hit like and hit subscribe. My books are available on Amazon in paperback form and on Ko-fi in electronic form, as well as gear lists and float plans and soap notes and all other stuff. Stickers are there. The Guides Way is there, which is over 100 tips and tricks that I compiled with friends who also work in the outdoor industry. It's essentially how to do things the way outdoor guides do in the outdoors, and it's things like dealing with broken gear and stuff like that. Okay, otherwise, I'll see you outside.
A vendor. by the World Trade Center. What I was showing you. But he goes there and he has like cheeseburger, no cheese on it.